Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa Opposition Preview, joined by Jacob, Burnley fan and content creator. Chats about every team on YouTube, so tactically he's spot on every time. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Villa at the weekend were good, so hopefully, I mean, from a Villa point of view, we can build on it. But how are you feeling right now as a Burnley fan?
Mixed, I think. I think it's been a good start to the season, all things considered. Obviously, a pretty rough start in terms of fixtures, but I think Burnley have shown enough promise in me to know that we might not be embarrassing this season.
Yeah, Scott Parker in at Burnley from the outside was brilliant last season defensively, so good. How have you found Scott Parker? Because I think his time as a manager, his stock's pretty good, to be honest. You know, with Fulham, etc. So, how are you feeling with Scott Parker as your manager?
I think I had a lot of negatives. I know obviously Bournemouth and Fulham fans aren't the biggest fan of Scott Parker because of his time in the Premier League. And last season, I definitely had a lot of negatives. I think we were boring. You know, we went on like a run of like 10 games without scoring a goal, stuff like that. But this season, I don't think he's really done anything wrong. I think he's done the best he possibly could have done with the players he's got, with the fixtures that Burnley have been given. So yeah, I think he's working. Not going to say wonders just yet, but he's doing a good job.
How do you think he's different to, say, Company in the Premier League? Do you feel like you've got a better chance with Parker?
Yeah, I think I've always said, like, with Company, the ceiling was really high. You know, if we had him in maybe a long-term plan, we could have gone on to, be in that position, like, like a Bournemouth are, where I think his football and the pull that he has can take you to the highest level, can take you into battling for them European places. But the floor is also very, very low unless you have the right players for that. And I think Parker's kind of flooring is immediately a lot higher than Vincent Kompany's. Obviously, the ceiling he's never probably going to take to the heights of battling for Europe and stuff like that. But in terms of being a pragmatic coach who can get results, who can make you difficult to play against, who can make it uncomfy for the opposition, that's what Scott Parker is. And that, in a newly promoted side, is something I would take a million times out of 10 than tiki-taka football under Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, so tactically then, Parker, talk to me like last season compared to this season. Are you seeing any differences with how you're playing?
No, I think a lot of there's kind of a misconception that Burnley were this massively ball dominant side, but as much as we did have more of the ball because we were having more quality than 90% of the teams were playing, I think Burnley's best football came in transition last season anyway, and playing in counter-attacks, trying to get wingers isolated and creating chances from the wide areas. Most of the teams that we actually really put to the sword and look good in, most of them goals were scored from catching them on the break. Whereas this season, I think we've seen a lot of trends from last season come through, but maybe pushed to the extreme. For example, like against Sheffield United, Sunderland and Leeds last season, we opted for playing more of a 5 without the ball, where you had one of the wingers tuck him back to make it that 5 back. This season, it's been like that in almost every single game, where we've kind of dropped back into a 5 back when we've needed to, and then looked to play in transition and ping players through like Jadon Anthony. The only difference I would say as well is probably because the massive improvement in quality is the midfield is so much more important. A lot of time last season with Josh Brownhill being in there, who outside the 18-yard box isn't very good. So I think a lot of it was to try bypass him and try play in away from that centre area. But now you've got players like we've got Josh Cullen, Florentino Luis, Leslie Ogochukwu, who are all arguably that's the best midfield that's ever played for Burnley in terms of man-for-man quality. So a lot of it now it's focusing on trying to bait teams in to try and press that central area and then send people like Loum Chuana, Jadon Anthony, Lau Foster through in isolated areas who are all absolutely rapid. So yeah, that's probably the only difference really, is that trying to utilize the midfield a lot more. But for the most part, the best football Burnley played last season, like I said, is playing in the way that we are playing this season.
Yeah. Are you fairly confident you've got a good chance of staying up? Because you look at the Premier League over the last couple of years, every team that comes up goes straight back down. But this season does feel like with a lot of clubs that are kind of established, there's a little bit of sort of uncertainty with some of them, like Brentford, Wolves, etc. So are you kind of confident that you could stay up?
I think it's tough because Whereas you look at people like Leeds and Sunderland, who obviously came up with Burnley, they've kind of had fixtures where they can properly gauge themselves. I think, Leeds have maybe played more than the mid-table guys, the guys that you do target to try and take 3 points off when you're at home, like, Everton, when Everton's squad was still a bit of a mess. Even Bournemouth on their day, you can get at, as good as they are and as good as Antonio Raiola is. But for us, I mean, we've had 2 winnable games, really, in Sunderland and Nottingham Forest at home, and we've took points from them both. So I think it's too early for me to really make a proper decision, but I'm very, very confident we won't finish on 24 points and be really embarrassing that we were under Vincent Kompany. And I think we've got enough in where to at least take it to them last couple of games and show a bit of fight in it.
What was it like seeing Sunderland spend all that money?
They earned it. They've been through so much torment over the last few years. Their business plan, they had to work for that. I think that's been something that's been coming for a long while, that capability to do so. And I said this as well, I think a lot of teams, obviously in the immediate future as a fan, you can be upset by, not spending in a window or being relegated and stuff like that. But sometimes it's for the best. If Sunderland didn't go all the way down to League One, they wouldn't have been able to spend, nigh on 200 million this window, because they wouldn't have been able to do it because of FFP. And I think Burnley's owner said that a few years ago as well when we came up under Vincent Kompany. We came up the season too early because then we still had like the FFP restrictions because we hadn't been down long enough to sell and all that jazz. So yeah, I think Sunderland deserved it, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, 2 players for me that impressed me the last time he was in the Premier League, Foster and Amdouni. Amdouni's injured, right?
Yeah, ACL, yeah.
I mean, he's a good player, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he's had a rough time. I mean, obviously he didn't play for last season. He went on loan to Benfica. But yeah, he's had a tough time. And I think he's one of them where he was probably a signing a little bit ahead of where we are as a club. I think he's probably more suited to, maybe, let's say everything goes exactly to plan, and in 5 years' time we are in that mid-table bracket where you can have a few more luxury players. Then Amdouni is brilliant. But as of right now, when we're scrapping it out every single week with 20% possession, he's probably not the bloke you want. But obviously, it is still good because he does have that quality to really, really hurt teams and kind of pick teams apart when you're maybe chasing a goal and things like that. And then obviously Lyle as well. He is a really special player. And I think he's had such a rough time, a really, really rough time, really, with mental health issues. He had a lot of injuries last season as well. And I think there's a weird thing with Al Foster is he's probably the first player who's not good enough for the Championship, but too good for the Premier League, because he really doesn't suit Championship football. When you're a team who have more of the ball, he's awful because he's not one of them players who can take loads of touches, beat on a few men. Instead, as you saw when we played you last time at Villa Park and we were robbed, Lyle bullies defenders. He uses his speed. He pins centre backs. He turns quickly, and I'm hoping to see that again on Saturday.
Yeah, were you surprised by the signing of Walker?
I think I was actually at my prom. I just finished my A-levels and I was at my prom, and then I just checked my phone. I was like, what's going on here? Kyle Walker signed for Burnley. Yeah, it is random, but to be fair, it's been very, very good. So
yeah, I mean, he used to play. He did have a spell at Villa as well, and that was when he was like really, really young. And yeah, I think you kind of need those players that have just got that experience and quality. And talk to me a little bit about Ugachukwu then, because he was at Southampton last season. He kind of didn't really do it there, did he? But do you feel like he can sort of come on at Burnley this season?
Yeah, I did a lot of work on Russell Martin Southampton, and I think he was fed to the wolves, really. He was playing in a system that didn't kind of really platform him to the best of his ability, and I think at Burnley this season he's been absolutely phenomenal. Now, obviously, he got that red card against Liverpool, which was, it was quite harsh, I think. I think the first yellow card is a little bit harsh, and then the second one, it's a silly challenge, but one that he probably did need to make to stop Liverpool from scoring a little bit earlier than they did. But I think, yeah, he's been great. He's been genuinely incredible. I think his ability to receive the ball, his ability to carry the ball, his ability to break up plays, his ability to just hold off players. I mean, he's massive. He's huge. I don't know his actual height, but it's a lot. So yeah, I think this season in a team that have less the ball, where maybe he's carrying into more open space, he's having to do a little bit more of the defensive work rather than a really, really rigid positional team like Russell Martin's, where he's sat in one space has to take 2 touches and play, that's not Leslie Ugachukwu for me. So I think he's going to be really good this season.
A player that has played for you, that plays for Villa, well, kind of plays for Villa when Unai wants to pick him. I really like Maatsen. For me, I prefer Maatsen than Digne. What are your thoughts and memories of Maatsen?
Yeah, man, what a player. I think he was such a brilliant person and player. He did loads of work in the community to raise money for Burnley in the community, which is like the local kind of charity work that's connected to the club. And then as a player, I mean, he was sensational. You know, I think I'd have him in the debate of one of the best left backs to play in the Championship, scoring goals, setting goals up. He does have a bit of a temper. I think he punched a Blackpool player when we played them at home. I remember that because the Blackpool player nearly broke his leg, so he jumped up and just took him out. But I think Ian Maatsen's an incredible footballer. I've loved him, and obviously we had that thing where we lobbed 40 million at Chelsea on deadline day because we could not find a left back, and then obviously, you know, Chelsea being Chelsea, hoarding all the players, didn't want to let him go. But yeah, I think Ian Maatsen's a top player, and also such a lovely person, which I think is really important with these young players as well. You see a lot of young players now come through where maybe they are overly arrogant, especially when they leave a club like Chelsea and go to someone, you know, like even like a Villa, you know, someone who's seen as like that kind of inferior move to them. They can have this arrogance and not really buy in. But I don't know what he's been like with Villa, but with us, he really did buy into that culture.
And a lot of your content is tactical. So talk to me then about Villa. What have you made of Aston Villa so far this season?
I think the problem that I've had, I did an analysis on the Fulham game, and I think the problem that I've had, especially it kind of came through massively in the first 30 minutes, was I think Villa have kind of lost that tactical fluidity that's made them so good under Unai Emery. Like, I think the biggest thing with Villa was you never quite knew what you were going to come up against. You know, Emery would change it mid-game, in the build-up to games and things like that. Whereas, I mean, I noticed it specifically against Fulham. It was so central. Everything had to go through the middle. You had Rodgers and Harvey Elliott kind of operating them 2 number 10 areas. And Fulham just battered through it. You know, I think Anderson was stepping forward. And I think, again, that comes back to like Marco Silva knew exactly what Villa were going to do before that game. He knew exactly what the game plan was. Get Rodgers and Elliott on the ball in central areas, then look to play wide and then look to play it into the box, which is great in some games, you know, maybe against teams who aren't as physically strong as a team like Fulham. But then you changed it up, and I think that was really important to see Villa actually change things up again. Because I remember I looked at the passing network against Sunderland, and it was pretty much the exact same as the one against Fulham, where everything had to go very, very central. And obviously, as you know, wasn't a great performance against Sunderland. And then about 30 minutes in, I think everything kind of shifted against Fulham, and you went long. The ball started going a little bit wider. Guesson started getting it to his feet or by the touchline a little bit more. And that's, again, like I said, that's really important, I think, for Villa, because Villa have obviously a very strong team. You know, some of them players start for a majority of the teams in the league, but I still don't think you have like enough quality to play any way you want, no matter who you're playing. I think you do still have to be that team that do adapt. You know, similar to like Bournemouth, they adapt to everyone they play. So I think, it was really important to see you go a little bit longer, and obviously the joy for the Watkins goal. I think Rodgers had another opportunity from that exact same move, pretty much. So I think it's going to get better, and I don't know why you have kind of lost that maybe fluidity. Maybe it's just the fact that there's not enough bodies there, so Emery's not able to maybe play in that more, I don't know, shift things up a little bit. You know, maybe he's not got the right profiles to do so because you've not been able to spend much. But I think it's definitely Burnley's look like he's kind of start to click a little bit just before you play us.
Yeah, you are spot on, really, because it does feel like at the minute with Villa that Emery's so built on his structure and his possession-based game that we play the same way every game. And during Emery's time, he has sort of like each game sort of had individual little tactical plans, but it feels at the minute sometimes it's like, no, we're going out and we're doing our way, our style, but we kind of sometimes don't have the quality of, say, like a Man City or a Liverpool to sort of just win a game through, just some individual brilliance which they can do. So I think, bringing on Pau Torres when you're talking about 30th minute, he came on and he's got the ability to play the passes quicker, to play through the lines, to go a bit longer, and he really did sort of change the game for Villa. So how do you feel like Burnley will approach this game then? What do you think Villa can expect from Burnley?
I think it's probably going to be the same ways that we approach pretty much most of the games. I don't think we'll probably sit as deep because I think Villa are a team that we can get at. I think there's a lot of areas in that team, like maybe the weaknesses in the Villa squad kind of play to the Burnley strengths. I think trying to press bait in the midfield, pull Villa's team very narrow, pull them inside is something that's going to naturally happen. Well, it's happened in every game that Burnley performed well in this season, and then look to send players like Anthony and Shawana 1v1 with the fullbacks, beat them early. And then you've got Lara Foster, who, I mean, as Villa fans know, when he last came to, as we last played, he can cause a lot of damage. And then obviously at the back, it's probably just going to be, defending that deep mid block, hybrid pressing, try and sit and just defend our own box, prevent any close distance shots from being fired. And I know Burnley have like the most XG conceded in the league, but I think when I was looking back at it and you actually look at the positions of the shots, a lot of them shots that are bringing in that are inflating that XG are from distance because Burnley are so compact in the middle. Like Liverpool had something like 20 shots, I think, but I can recall maybe one chance that was an actual real chance. So yeah, I think that's probably what it's going to be, trying to get players wide and isolated, because that's given success. I mean, Jane Anthony scored in 4 of the first 6 games. I think he's the second top scorer in the Premier League from doing that, getting people isolated and Kulidinci Hartman bombing down the line and supplying balls at the box as well. So yeah, probably be something like that.
Yeah, mate, spot on. Your knowledge on football in general is top quality. So if Villa fans wanted to watch your content, what do you do? Where can they find it?
I break down. I just talk about general football, and then I do a lot of tactical analysis. Like I said, I did one on Fulham versus Villa. It was actually the day the game was played. It came out on that night time. So if you want to check that out, it's on my channel, Jacob Horsfall, no E in horse. And yeah, talk about everyone. If you want me to talk about anything, just let me know, and I'll probably do it. I spend all my time watching football, so.
Yeah, wicked, mate. It's great to have you on the channel, and I'll link your channel in the title and description so Villa fans can go and check it out. So all the best for the season, mate.
Cheers, mate.